This podcast is brought to you by the Prospect Research Institute, an online learning community. Do you ever worry if you're doing research and prospect management correctly? At the Institute, we turn researchers into fundraising intelligence assets, leading your development officers to the biggest and best donor prospects, and bringing your organization major gift success.
This is the future we can work towards, and this is how it can work best for you. And my message, even now, continues to be, do you believe that I am doing this for the benefit of you? Do I have your trust that I have your interests at heart, that this isn't about making me look good? And I think another one that might have worked for me was saying, prove me wrong. Let's try this and give me the opportunity to fail, to demonstrate that this might work, this might not. We don't know if we don't do it, but put that on me and let's move forward on this. And my commitment to you is to stay in touch with you on it, right? And to walk with you through it.
Welcome to Prospect Research Chat Bites, a podcast by and for prospect research professionals. I'm Jen Filla. Today, I'm talking with Amy Modin, Director of Research and Prospect Management at the U.S. Air Force Academy Foundation. Hello, Amy. Thank you for joining me today on Chat Bites.
I'm excited. This is great.
Before we jump into the topic of portfolio management, I'm wondering if you'd be willing to share, how did you get into the nonprofit field in the first place, and especially fundraising? Like how did that become a thing for you?
My earlier career, I got to participate in leading employee corporate giving campaigns. And I got to work with our local sponsored organization that we would work with. So I got an interest in having the one-on-one conversations with each employee, talking about how they might be interested or might be interested in increasing their annual, their weekly, their biannual giving for this particular corporate campaign. And that actually jumped off of some education that I was doing on my own, pursuing a master's in public administration, nonprofit management. And the only reason I was pursuing that is because everyone else in my career was pursuing an MBA, business administration. And I also say that to say this. What interested me in the public administration piece of it, I took some courses in grant writing. It's how I got my graduate certificate in fundraising. And that was a result of doing some internship in college. I was studying art history at the time, and I was watching this woman struggle with putting together grant applications and writing for this one particular humanities project we were working on. And it just piqued my interest. So honestly, it's all a stair-stepping piece of how I got to it. When I left that career, I was blessed by this one organization that was undergoing new operational management and just wanted someone from an outside perspective to evaluate their prospect management and research area, what was done before and what could be done differently. And having literally zero industry experience except for just real life marketing and internships and just a little dabbling here and there in the fundraising realm and to be in a community organization participation, I was hired into that and I fell into prospect research management, and I just started exploring on my own. What did it mean? How are others doing it? How can I network? And a lot of it was self-development through that, and it just became natural for me.
That's a wonderful story.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you found your way here.
Yes.
When you started at the U.S. Air Force Academy Foundation, affectionately called USAFA, there were the trappings of a prospect management program, which had been created during a previous campaign, but it didn't really have a lot of traction going at the moment. Like, it looked good on the surface, and then when you looked at what was really happening, it wasn't very effective. Can you share a little bit about that disconnect between that apparent structure and then the actual practices?
Sure. When I showed up and I saw what it was in writing and how it was presented, in portfolio assignments, as an example, suspect versus prospect. I recognized a process that existed as it were with the donor database that's being used, the limitations on how we can get creative and how one can monitor and measure and increase the metrics behind fundraising, right? Major gift fundraising as it is, and the prospect management piece and moves management. So when I showed up, what I saw basically was that leftover framework of it from years ago, which I imagine, and if I understand correctly, because not a whole lot of people were in place from when it was first established, there was a large, robust team. So you had at least two, if not three, it sounded like, members of the department that could constantly monitor the portfolios and identify the suspects and take those to the fundraisers. And fundraisers can manage these relationships over here while maybe checking out these relationships over there. Huge portfolios is what I walked into. I walked into portfolio assignments upwards of 300. I walked into a fundraising team where at least half, and let's say six at the time, actually four of them were relatively new and young. They were 2 to 3 years old within the organization of fundraising, if not younger. I also walked into a lot of what I called ghost proposals. So there were a lot of opportunities that were inserted in and were being tracked, if you were. Like, we have this intention of asking for millions, but what was happening is there weren't any conversations moving towards them at all. Too big. They were just too big, and no structure, no organization, no North Star. They hadn't had their own leader. They didn't have their own fundraising leader at the time either. So I walked into the end of the campaign, which was done successfully. They raised the money, right? So on paper, it was done successfully, but there was just no tried or true method of the relationship building pointing towards future sustainability.
So they came out of the campaign successfully,
Yes.
but now what got them there, they were in a different place and they
Yes.
needed a new system.
They didn't know it, but yes.
They didn't know it. Aha. Now this is where we speak to trust, right?
Oh my goodness, yes.
So
Yes.
how did you ease them into that moment of truth where they needed something different?
I was hired primarily because it was believed I was no nonsense. I was able to communicate it, speak it as it were. And that's, I'm told that because one of my references said that that's what my boss was really asking about. And I have to tell you, this is a result of my previous career of many, many years of personal development, professional development, and a lot of mistakes with managing people and learning what that looks like. So I say all that to say this. When I showed up, I got it that I had to watch two balance beams at the same time. I had to be gentle and cognizant of where they were, right? And understanding each individual fundraiser, where they were. I had a couple that were long timers, and this is the way they'd been doing it, and they were successful with it. And I had I had young ones. This is what they were shown before that leadership left, right? And they were in a flux. So they're just floundering. So I had to see where they're at, meet them at where they're at as well. But I also I had to demonstrate to them. It was on me to be able to demonstrate to them that, it was in their best interest to reduce this workload that had been put on them. It was on me to be able to articulate hey, long term and short term, this is the future we can work towards, and this is how it can work best for you. And my message, even now, continues to be, do you believe that I am doing this for the benefit of you? Do I have your trust that I have your interests at heart, that this isn't about making me look good? And I think another one that might have worked for me was saying, prove me wrong. Let's try this and give me the opportunity to fail, to demonstrate that this might work, this might not. We don't know if we don't do it, but put that on me and let's move forward on this. And my commitment to you is to stay in touch with you on it, right? And to walk with you through it. And at the time, they were still looking for their new leader as well for their development. So I think I filled that gap for them between them and my boss, which was, the vice president of development. And then when they have their new leader showed up, I was able to bridge that to them while she was creating her own relationship process with them at the same time. So I got to find my place in that triangle of, here's the prospect management research, here's the VP of development, and here's the fundraisers. And I don't answer to the VP of development necessarily. I have my own boss, but I'm that bridge between. It's a pretty neat triangle when it continues to be open and the communication is there consistently.
When it's balanced.
Yes.
It is interesting to be in that moment for you because there was no one managing the major gift team
Yes.
directly,
Correct.
giving them that full attention. And you were supported by the vice president to really step in and be shoulder to shoulder with the
Yes.
development officers. That's
Yes.
unusual.
It's sad, but yeah, that's true. It seems from what we hear. I was very fortunate that my employer, that's what she was looking for. That was the team, must have worked for her in another life, right? And so she saw the importance of it, and that's what she's looking for when she's building her own team moving forward. And again, forward thinking, next campaign, how do we build that pipeline? And she identified what kind of team members she needs to do that, and I'm grateful that I fit that bill.
That's wonderful because I do often see organizations where they identify research and prospect management as the problem that's obstructing their progress towards next campaign or whatever they're moving towards, and don't recognize that it takes two to tango, to be cliche. They're not isolated. Prospect management and major gift fundraising work together, or they end up not working well.
I agree with that. It's work, right? I mean, it's just like relationship. I can only imagine being a frontline fundraiser, the work, the energy that goes into meeting the new people, qualifying the new people, making that determination. Do they belong in our portfolio? Are they a partner to our organization? And then keeping on top of it. I mean, it's work. And that's actually how I like to describe it with one of my fundraisers. It's a relationship, right? Maybe like a dating relationship, maybe. You put some effort into it. It's the support on either side. I think it's incumbent upon me to not sit back and be in my own silo. Dun, 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 I'm the research and prospect management, and what I say is gold. And if you're not doing it, it's very easy to actually fall into that thinking. And I am personally working on that regularly, going, what is my role? My role is it's to help that pipeline flow. And sure, maybe I see a gap here or there or a process that's not getting followed. And if only they would be timely. And if all the things, wash, rinse, repeat, showing up, it's this consistent message. And I now finally understand and get it. It's my job to consistently show up and say that message over. If I'm thinking, you guys should get it by now, I've come to accept that's just not how this works. This is just like a relationship. You just keep showing up. Every day is a new day. And how am I going to show up and be a part of it today? And how can I help them?
I love it that you were willing to put some skin in the game because if they tried it and you were the one telling them to do it and it didn't work, then it was your fault. That's also a great way to build trust. And the idea of putting your own effort into a relationship with each fundraiser that you're supporting does maybe more than you even thought consciously, but it allows you to listen in a way that you're not coming at them and saying, this is the best practice. This is how we're going to structure this. You're listening. Like if it's not working for them, then it's not a best practice for USAFA.
When I showed up at USAFA, everything I had learned about prospect research and management was turned on its head right away. So I was given that information from the previous organization that was bridging that gap for us before. Amy, this is different. And I saw it right away. I said, oh, okay, these profiles, that intense research, the showing up, this one's working a little different. And because this is not working the way textbook industry taught me and I'm hearing worked for others and it seemed to work in my past experience with healthcare philanthropy, this was a different game. So I had to make a decision. How can I be open-minded and pivot and agile and show up? And I just saw the best way to make this work is to meet them where they're at. And you said it, to listen to them, because the reality is with our particular graduate pool, I mean, those are our donors. Those are 80% of our donors, if not 90%. we have to listen for different cues. And so I have to listen to the fundraisers for their different cues of what they're finding is their approach and their conversation and their follow-up and their pivot. And then I figure out how I can step in and help kind of guide that moves management process for them so that they can eventually close that gift, or better yet, just create a new partner for the foundation.
What was the enthusiasm level of the development officers? Were they like, how invested are they in doing a great job?
So my sense was the two lifers, as I'll call them, right, who'd been here, the longest, 15 years, 12, 15 years with the organization, one since its inception, literally. They were excited. Those were the ones who, can you teach an old dog new tricks, Amy, right? They were really excited about my position being filled. I'd say the others were probably a little not less excited, but unsure, right? Because I quite frankly have zero idea how much research and prospect management played into their fundraising game, into whatever training they were given to be fundraisers. But having said that, again, the groundwork, showing the evidence, this is what you were doing, this is what resulted, this is the potential of what we can do next, and showing that visually as well, I think kind of gathered a little excitement momentum for them. But again, the key is I had to continually and consistently show up with that message. It wasn't a one and done, and it can't be a one and done. I think for me, that's probably the hardest work I'm finding, is how this is playing into our synergy as our team is growing, as we're starting to think about our next campaign, as we're starting to create a mid-level giving position. It's really important. We talk about it a lot in our industries, having a seat at the table, right? And the strategic piece that we think that's how it should look, or at least that's how it should sound. But what does it really look like? And I'm fine. It's not a one size fits all, period. If I'm thinking that that's how it should be, then I've just kind of created the parameters that are just, the color's going to fall outside the lines. And then we start getting upset, right? And frustrated. And why isn't this working? And throw up our hands. So I think the excitement grows as long as I keep showing up.
Well, before I let you go, I'm wondering, what advice do you have for that person who takes on that new job, whether it's someone has filled it before or not, but especially that solo research and prospect management director? And then they get in and they discover things aren't working, which is usually the case. That's why they're hired.
Right. That's funny you asked. I just had a conversation with someone who just had this new role, and my advice to that individual was two things. Continually look outside your box to network, to ask questions, and to have interview, right, with fellow research, prospect management, and fundraisers as well. Fundraisers are a huge part of it. The other piece of it, open-mindedness. I have to come from a place of humility and open-mindedness in order to make this work and to understand the process that I think it's supposed to look like. It's okay if it starts to bend a little bit outside of the lines.
Nice. Thank you so much for joining me and for sharing today.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
That was Amy Modin, Director of Research and Prospect Management at the U.S. Air Force Academy Foundation. How much did you enjoy hearing how she was able to come into her role and be shoulder to shoulder with the fundraisers? It's exactly the scenario so many professionals dream of. And yet, Amy tells us that maintaining these internal relationships is something she didn't exactly anticipate. Be sure to connect with Amy on LinkedIn. Of course, the link is in the show notes. Hey there! Do you manage a prospect research team, or were you newly hired as a prospect researcher? Then you'll be delighted to hear about the Institute's Career Agent Track. In this bundle of 4 courses, participants learn how to build great profiles, calculate capacity ratings, the basics of prospect identification and prospect management, ethics, and the fundamentals of analytics every team member needs to be skilled in. If you need to build the research skills of a fundraising intelligence asset like this, sign up today at member.prospectresearchinstitute.org/career agent.